TikTok will remain a place for free expression and will not be manipulated by any government.
What is your take on this possible TikTok ban?
That's crazy. I'm actually really sad about it.
Some people think my music is dope. Some people see me as like this satanic devil. But me?
But as he is maturing in front of the world, he is actually freeing up a lot of other people that struggle with that topic.
Too many people get into a place where they think it's all delegation. They always lose. And then too many people don't delegate and they always lose.
And of course, this episode is powered by Ecamm Live. Whether you are streaming, whether you're podcasting, you're recording, you're presenting, Ecamm could do it all. I'm talking about video isolation, audio isolations, transitions, overlays, playing videos. And we're giving away 14 days for free if you go to www.nickyandmoose.com/Ecamm. That's ECAMM for that 14-day trial.
Hello.
Moose, how are we feeling?
Shout out to Ecamm. Feeling pretty good, man. Things are great. Can't complain. I went back to one of my all-time favorite documentaries, Netflix versus the World. If you've listened to a podcast or just really spent enough time listening to me talk in general, I bring up this reference at least once in conversation because it's such a great documentary. So Netflix versus the World. You ever check that out, by the way?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I first caught wind of it on Amazon Prime, and super dope documentary, man, because it actually takes you, the CEO or the co-founders of Netflix are in the documentary. So Reid Hoffman from Netflix is in the documentary, and they show how Netflix started and how they proved their concept and went on to pretty much compete against Blockbuster. Now, at the time, Blockbuster was the more dominant, brand or business in the space when it came to at-home videos or, distributing movies of that kind, the home rental space. And they just were early to realize, like, there's a better way to do this. So there are parts early on in the documentary when they first shipped something using USPS, where they, drop a DVD in one location and then it gets up to another location. They're like, wait a second, we got something. And so one after the other, you get to see the progression of the business and how they were able to spring together this idea, because literally that's all it was. And that's the beautiful thing, I think, about watching that movie, and the lesson that I extract from it is that every business, and I know sometimes we take this for granted, it starts off as an idea. And so if you're not careful, you can curve away a phenomenal opportunity because you're like, I don't think that might work. And so the beautiful thing here is to take the idea, to test it, and they show you that testing process of, proving the concept and then just going at it. It wasn't a perfect journey nonetheless. They had, I think the site crashed on their initial launch because they didn't expect to get so much traffic. And so they kept getting better. And then when you get towards the end, they show you the lone Blockbuster store, like the only one remaining after all of the thousands of stores they had across the country. They show you the last one standing. And then, of course, we know Netflix is I think a multi-billion-dollar business now, if not more, with their own production and stream, and they changed the way we interact with entertainment. So just a super dope documentary, man, for anyone who is in those beginning stages as a founder or as a creator trying to stitch some things together. That's a good documentary to lock into because it's super, super real just around what the journey will look like, and what happens when you have to go up against some big competitors. So yeah, y'all gotta check it out.
Gotta put that on my list now.
Yeah.
Put that on my list. For me, I saw the Lil Nas X documentary that's on Max. Don't ask me what it's called. You can find it. Just look up Lil Nas X. But it's interesting because I'm realizing with documentaries that it helps you look a little bit deeper for you to understand the things you don't necessarily understand. right? If you care that much. So, Lil Nas X is not the most liked when it comes to, I would say, overall society, right? I think a very misunderstood kid that taps into topics that would cause some controversy, right? But what I liked about this documentary is that he is an example of pretty much maturing right in front of us. So if you remember how Little Nas X came in, he did this country song in his own way, the Old Country Road, I think that's what it's called. Bear with me because that wasn't my favorite song. So he came in there, then he came out, I think at 2019, he came out to the world, and he could have stayed like, okay, let me just not be flamboyant. Let me not necessarily be out to the world. Let me just do this to my family. But as he is maturing in front of the world, he is actually freeing up a lot of other people that struggle with that topic or struggle with talking about things that are bothering them, whether to their family, their friends, or even out to the public. And so it gives you a kind of a different look of, yeah, you may not necessarily agree with how he campaigns and how he markets himself, but to see the people go to his shows and the stories that come out of it, like he literally gives like empowerment and encouragement to like a whole group of people to be themselves. Now, are we going to like everybody? No. You know what I mean? So there's going to be some things we don't necessarily like of Lil Nas X. Some things that we won't like even from his audience and maybe what they represent and how they go about things. But the freedom that this man has is very refreshing, right? And in the documentary, Moose has already said we pretty much give a lot. If you haven't seen it, I apologize. But in the documentary, like you can see and hear his willingness to be the best. Like I want to be one of the greats. They showed Madonna in there and the people who do accept him for who he is, and his work ethic is really actually amazing. So, but he also deals with self-doubt. He also, they showed multiple times where right before he gets on stage, he threw up. He questioned, will people like this? Will people leave? And though one may see somebody in the public and instantly think that person has confidence and doesn't care what people think. And it's actually really the opposite 9 out of 10 of the times. So it was a really good documentary that really inspires being free with the creations that you do, right? Regardless of what it is. It could be you create cars to tech to sweaters, it doesn't matter. It is creating things and being present and being free and authentic in the way that you are, and understanding that there is a group of people that you're inspiring, and do not take that for granted or only pay attention to the negative side of things, because there are a lot of people who changed and who live a happier life because he did what he did. And so it's really interesting because I'm definitely back and forth with Lil Nas X as far as how he moves. But who he is as a person, not the character, but who he is as a person. And I think this is what these documentaries do very well, is like you get to know the person and you get to see the behind the scenes of the person, not the character, not the one that media has spoken so negatively about or give their own take, because media will do media things, but also look at it from a different perspective of, you have media side, you have this side. Now you kind of put together what you want to think about the person. So I think, one, if you are, I will say this, if you are a personal brand or a public figure of some way, shape, or form in your own industry, I would start really taking documentation of yourself serious. Because it's moments like that that we get to connect with you deeper in maybe a time where you may not be so understood. You're not always going to be super liked. There's going to be a moment probably where somebody's going to disagree with you and go back and forth. I think documenting the process is going to allow those core audience and those people who may be onlookers to be like, I don't fully agree, but I can understand your perspective on things. So I really enjoyed the documentary.
Yeah, that's a good word. That's a good word.
Also this week, I got a cool announcement, which is super. I don't know if you deal with this, like understanding how dope you are. I don't know if you deal with. So, okay, if you follow me, you've probably seen the announcement. I am going to be speaking on Grow With Live Video in Vegas, April 24th to the 26th. I'll give myself some air horns. However, I thought I was going to be on a panel. I did not
Surprise?
think. Remember, I did not think Nikki was going to be on a flyer with Dave Ramsey, Cody Sanchez, Pat Flynn.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, like, I don't want to forget her name. Sure, oh, man. And Miss Johnson. I just know, what's her first name? Give me a second.
There's something with an H? I thought I glanced at it.
Shalene Johnson. Shalene Johnson.
Okay. There's an H in there.
Yeah. Sean Kennel, of course, but I was not expecting that. That
Major.
threw me off. That I was on my media call and I was just like speechless. Like that wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I was just supposed to attend, by the way. I bought tickets.
Like just as a visitor
Just-
or an attendee.
Just bought tickets to watch. I was like, you know what? Let me go as a student. I wanna take this whole the video to business serious and get different perspectives and things. Let me go. And then this happened, and I'm just like,
Earned and deserved, man. Earned and deserved. That's the cool thing about it. It's not a oh, you're my friend. So I'm just, let's just do this. You know what I'm saying? I got you. Don't worry about it. No, this is earned, very much deserved. I don't know, 5, 6, 7+ years of consistent hard work, not to mention thousands, like multiple thousands, not just like 1 or 2,000, like multiple thousands of hours of on-camera content, let alone the behind-the-scenes efforts. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a pretty powerful resume. When you start to look at it through that perspective, it's like, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
You
Take a
said,
sip of coffee to
yeah,
that.
good. Sip your coffee, but I still I think the names threw me off. Like
Yeah.
it definitely. I'm right behind Dave Ramsey. Like, huh? So
Interesting.
yeah, no, it is. But and I guess my dog wanted to get into the conversation as well. You'll hear him. But it is. It's one of those things that like I was breaking it down to. Everything started to happen once I started talking about AI. And thinking about it to where that it's so important to find that space that people are looking for information, but there's not that much. And then being able to be relatable. Because I think that's what's like, because of course I'm talking about AI. They're like, yo, boom. Because they have other people that could talk about social media. There's other people that could talk about content and things like that. But what I'm seeing people come to me more and more about is the AI thing. And I'm like, once again, it just started. So it's one of those things that I say that as I'm being transparent with just the thought process, but 9 out of 10 times we think we're actually a lot doper than what we probably think of ourselves. And so, unless you're super conceited, shout out to all the super conceited people. I don't thrive to be like you, but I recognize you, and that's an interesting trait that sometimes I wish I had, but not all the time. But yeah, no, it just sit down and if you rate yourself 1 to 10, give yourself an extra level, as my dog is making sure that I think
hello.
of it. Yeah, right.
Agreement. Yeah. And saying hello in agreement.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy too that a lot of times, not a lot of times, but there's definitely some unique times when what you start doesn't end up being the thing that you do, but it's the thing that leads you to the thing that you end up doing. Right. It's like if you think about it, and I don't know if you felt like there was a risk associated with pulling back on content, social media talk, and then going heavy on AI, because that happened, let's call it a year ago, maybe a little over, but maybe you could talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, that's crazy. Like, that's not where you started, but the thing that you started led you there. And so it was just a perfect pathway, probably not something you planned when you started this journey some years ago. But yeah, did you feel any risk associated with that when you were like, damn, I'm about to leave the thing that I'm super, you know?
I was hesitant because what I didn't want to do was seem as if I was an AI expert. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So I have accolades and results when it comes to the content side, but the AI side, I realized that I came more as like, look what I found. This is what I did. You know, and just sharing with the world in that, which led to all these different opportunities, because I guess not many other people were doing that or deemed themselves as AI experts, when we all know that's almost impossible with such a short period of time. So there was a bit hesitancy because I didn't know exactly how to show up that wasn't saying, hey, I know exactly what I'm talking about, because even still to this day, it is more of a discovery thing for me of look at all the things that I'm finding that is really, really dope that can help you in these things because it's helping me in this and that. So it was not scary, but it was like hesitancy to be like,
Yeah.
but not leaving the social media and the content side, just making it more of an add-on. And yeah, it did take a life of its own and like a good amount of my content, but still having the foundation. I'm able to talk about AI because I only speak on it from a content standpoint, like a content and social media branding side. I never go too much into productivity or business or anything to that sense, because then I'll definitely be out of context
Right.
of just doing that. But so I try to allow the foundation of like the beginnings, but realizing that I outgrew them because there's a new passion and things that are working because of this AI stuff that I'm like, I'm cool with that. I'm super cool with that.
That's dope. Yeah, no, congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And the link to the conference, if you want to go Vegas, we'll put it in the show notes. Isaiah will probably put it on the video and descriptions and all that great stuff. We got you. So, Moose gave me this really dope post about an electric car and a influencer that we've gone over time and time again. You may know him, the initials of MKBHD, Marquez Brownlee, did a review on an electric car called Fisker. It's like a Fisker review. And, well, I found the video version of this post, so let's watch it. Or listen to it if you're in the audio version.
In New Jersey, a YouTuber's review has sunk the electric car company Fisker. YouTuber MKBHD recently tested Fisker's latest EV and called it the worst car I've ever reviewed. The video, which he posted on February 17th, has received 4.4 million views since he posted it. But things got really weird when Fisker responded. Brownlee had originally asked Fisker to lend him a vehicle to review, but they kept delaying. Tired of jumping through hoops, he found a dealership willing to lend him one. When Fisker found out that Brownlee had gotten a car from a dealership, he asked him to delay his review until a software update arrived, and Brownlee refused, saying he wasn't going to wait for a fix, so the video doesn't show the reality. In it, he points out a lot of strange options, including unlabeled buttons, sunroof solar panels you can't monitor, and software glitches with the key, cameras, and more. Brownlee did give credit to the car's handsome physical design, but he followed up by saying, "You could give me this car and I wouldn't want to drive it." Afterward, a Fisker chief engineer called the dealership that lent the car to Brownlee to try to do damage control. Unaware that they were being recorded, the rep let a few things slip. They admitted that even after the car's new update, Fisker's software still has some holes in it. The video of the call has more than 4.2 million views on TikTok. Fisker announced last week that it might not have the money to survive this year, and the stock has already plunged 50% since the Brownlee video was posted.
Yeah. This is, I saw this and I really just couldn't help but think about how content, and more specifically creators, are in a lot of ways similar to the news anchors, the CNBCs, the Wall Street Journals. You know, you never would really hear a company tanking. Now, guys, for context, this is a business or a company that is publicly traded. Their stock is on the New York Stock Exchange or whatever it is. And their stock plummets as a result of someone doing a review of their product, essentially the car. And so content, think about the power of that. It's a content creator, not to speak down on Marquez Brownlee. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal creator. He's been in the game for a long time, has probably millions of views already on his resume. But it's just to show the evolution of content and where the world is headed in the digital age, that creators, content, social media is impacting business the way that only traditional media was only able to move the needle, especially in the stock market over publicly traded companies. So that caught my attention because I said, whoa, this is the first, at least that I can remember, of something like this happening on a major scale with an up-and-coming car company like Fisker. And so that was one part of the conversation that I thought about. But then I did a little bit more digging, right? Because I looked at when the video was originally posted. So Marquez Brownlee originally posted this video, I think it was sometime in February. So it's probably over a month ago. Has 4.4 million views on YouTube since I last checked. And the stock took its biggest hit just a couple of days ago on March 13th, right? And so I got to thinking, and I'm saying maybe that's what started it. But what really put it over the top, and this is where the business lesson comes in, is the rep of the car company talking about how their software still had some holes in it, even after the 2.0. I think it's when people in the public got some light into how this company operates, like their actual operational values and the way they intend to do something. So I want to pull something back from a standard review. I don't want to give you access because I don't feel good about it, which I can understand, right? It's like if you don't feel that your product is ready, you may not want to give access to someone for a review. There's always ways to communicate that, by the way. I'm realizing that you can really pretty much say anything. It's just about how you say it that makes the world of difference. So and again, I don't know the full details of how their conversation went down, but I'm just saying, if you are giving him a hard time, maybe you already got on his bad side. And that's why he was like, okay, let me go to the dealer and get it myself, right? Maybe there wasn't some transparency that's happening there. And then, of course, for the rep of the company to talk about, oh, there's still some loopholes in the software, although we wanted to withhold until 2.0 came out, that's showing that even with all the work that you guys put in, it still didn't get up to speed. So I see two sides of it, Nix. I see the evolution of the digital world and how much content and social media can literally impact businesses, even those that are publicly traded, which is not something that we're used to seeing. That's usually reserved for traditional media. And then, of course, I see some insight into, okay, maybe that's what started the trend, but what really pushed it over is the public responding to a company showing their operational methods or values and not really liking the transparency or the lack thereof that went into it. And so they said, you know what? No. And then, of course, that stock literally dropped 50% in one day, and not doing too well right now for sure. So, yeah, those are the two things I took away from that and why it caught my eye.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit of the Keith Lee situation, to where he reviewed something in Atlanta and their response, because what the video did show and shared a little bit is that the rep called the dealership of where Marquez Brownlee got the car from, and their response to it was a little bit crazy, because it was like, we're not, we're trying to pipe down this mouthpiece. I don't want to talk to this mouthpiece. And it's like, you're kind of disregarding the person who reviewed it, just like what happened with the Keith Lee situation. If y'all don't remember, there was this restaurant that Keith Lee was not necessarily complaining, but speaking about their weird rules and not getting the food because of this situation. And then their response was, who's Keith Lee? Right? So like a disregard to the actual review instead of really talking about it. And so the video of the rep calling the dealership was like, yeah, I ain't trying to talk to the mouthpiece. And I'll personally come out, put aside all these other customers and address you because you're the one with the car. But to be honest with you, the update still has some holes in it. And so that video went crazy as well. And it's just interesting how so disconnected some of these brands and companies are to modern day media. Because yes, these reviewers, these influencers who are reviewing these things is literally modern day media. And we can embrace it or we can ignore it. And any type of user generated content is good for our brand awareness. Now, if we get a bad review of some sort, it is up to us to reply and give a better experience, addressing what has happened, what was said, but then also what is the solution? You know, I think if it went about that way and a full transparency in that kind of sense, and not necessarily getting caught slipping up about some of the updates and everything like that, but just full blown transparency, I think that would probably go a little bit better. And have people kind of semi-rooting, like, I want to see where this goes. I see the potential, rather than necessarily going, I see what you did. I see how you reacted. You're just trying to play cleanup. I'm really not interested. So we're seeing more and more and more people turning into reviewers, and it's pretty dope to see. But we also have to understand that brands and companies have to take that a bit serious, because these videos have impact and really have influence on whether a person goes and buys something. I was doing a Feastable challenge. Like, I got inspired by Mr. Beast, bought a few Feastables, and then a few of my followers went and bought Feastables as well. Right? So there is a power of your favorite person online, your favorite brand online, doing something and stamping a brand, a shirt, a merch, whatever it is. There is power in that, and we just can't take it lightly as business owners anymore. This ain't something that's really cute. Like, there is true power to that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm realizing that while we think you have to do good to build community, and you do,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a unique opportunity to build trust in the community when you handle when things go wrong a little bit differently as well. So, like, that's an opportunity that you could have built some serious loyalty amongst people who already have your cars, and getting some more feedback from them and incorporating them into the process and creating some diehard fans, right? And, you know, I'm not a big fan of the company. Like, I'm not, and by a fan, I mean, I'm not someone who was familiar too much about it. So I don't know if they have that or not, but just, you know, with the information that I have, I'm thinking like, yo, that would have been a good opportunity to really establish community about it and come out front and saying it. You know, I mean, it's crazy because just 2 weeks ago, we talked about a company hiring Marquez Brown's lead to work internally to lead the exact same thing, essentially, or help them avoid making similar mistakes. So it's just crazy how much you're seeing this being involved in a conversation now where the two worlds are coming together in a major way. It's like brands are marrying businesses to help the collective growth, because that's the way.
Facts. Random side note. What is your take on this possible TikTok ban?
Man, that's crazy. I'm actually really sad about it.
Aw.
Really sad. Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah,
Tell us why.
TikTok has grown to be my favorite platform, low key, like more than YouTube, more than Instagram, more than Facebook. So I spend a lot of time on TikTok. I like their algorithm better from a user standpoint because of the content that I get to watch or that comes up on my feed. I agree with you because I think you made this comment some time back too, in the sense that those who you follow, forget about it. You're just not going to see their stuff. Like,
Never.
It's
Never see them again.
It's like
the weirdest thing.
It's rare. Yeah, it's rare. But for the amount of new content and information that you find on there, you're going to get a crazy, incredible wide variety. So me personally, I really enjoyed being on TikTok more so in the last 6 months. So, you know, it's probably more of a selfish response around it being banned. But let's see. I mean, from a more kind of technical aspect, to expect that the owners of TikTok are going to allow the sale to an American-held company so that it can stay in the States is going to be interesting. I heard Trap make an incredible point about this, because then he said, you know, China can fire right back at companies like Apple and Microsoft and a lot of the American-owned companies in China And so it's going to become a very interesting, back and forth. It's going to be interesting. I'm surprised it actually got passed. Like I didn't see it as a serious threat, but to see it get this far, it's like, oh, wow, this is a whole new ball game.
Do you believe it could?
Yeah, because I remember, and I think it was Gary Vee who I watched a clip of him. It was either him or a podcast that he was on or a part of, and they were talking about how the algorithm for specifically the youth or young people in the States is different than that which is, shown to young people outside of the States, and specifically in China. They were saying how here, most of the videos that show up that are popular for young people is things that are non-productive to their future. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of these viral video games, dancing, whatever, at least at the time that video was made, where people in China, the kids are really programmed and pushed to see content that encourages them to pursue things like engineering and computer science and, a lot of these professional things that will essentially help the country become better, right? It's like as the generations grow, that's what they call the new digital war in a sense, where it's like, no, we're not going to fight like army to army. No, we're going to use generation to generation and allow the intelligence to win over time. I was like, whoa, this is some like super woke, dialogue. It felt like, but dang, if you think about it, it makes sense, right? It's like if you were to really use that perspective, and if you can prove that, then of course it's a valid reason to say, all right, you are intentionally trying to make our youth or our public, whatever, digress over time so that you can have the competitive advantage. Crazy stuff. So I could see it from that standpoint becoming like that's why it's becoming more of a serious issue.
Yeah, it's I didn't think it would get this far. I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't think it was gonna get this far. And now all of a sudden it seems like things are getting rushed or happening really quick. I don't know. Like, of course, President Biden already said if it gets to his desk, he's signing it. And from that point on, it's probably going to take 6 months till it gets banned, right? Now, do I see TikTok selling it to the US? I don't necessarily see it because, we are a small percentage compared to all the other users in the world, right?
Yeah, let me look that up. That's a good point.
It's because it's a global app, right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying, hey, for this to be used in the United States, we got to hold that. And so we'll control everything, but we got to hold it. And I'm like, yeah, that may not necessarily happen. And then the conversation of who would own it is the question. Because please don't give it to Elon. Please.
Oh, no.
Please don't.
That would be crazy.
No offense, Elon. But please don't.
I don't think the U.S. would allow it, actually. If they're involved that difficult or that heavy, I should say. I think they may.
I don't think they would give it to Mark either. Because then it's more of like a monopoly situation.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Check out these numbers real quick, just to the point that you were making. So these are estimates, but they say the top 10 countries by TikTok users. The United States, number 1, 113 million. Mm-hmm. Indonesia, number 2 at 109. And then Brazil at 82 million. Mexico at 57 million. So, obviously, when you add up the 2 through 9, they have significantly way more users than the U.S., but the U.S. does seem to, at least according to this one, be number 1 on the charts for users. Yeah.
Because we're highly addicted to social media. So,
Oh, that's a fact. That is a fact.
So, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But I don't I don't see them. I know TikTok is putting up a fight. Shout out to TikTok because they did that little sign the petition thing, and then
I
I
didn't
think
see that. That's funny.
oh yeah, it was like this thing that popped up like an actual TikTok, like hey, sign it. They're trying to ban us, right? And I think the U.S. tried to use that against them, like yo, you're trying to use U.S. citizens against us. So like, what are you doing? But so I like that the guy who runs TikTok, he got on TikTok like, yo, we pretty much provide income, we provide jobs, we do a lot. Like this would actually hurt not only artists who have grown an amazing audience because of this platform, but you know, the income that people were not seeing from content. And so he said a lot of valid points. Now, am I for the ban? I don't think I necessarily care, right? Because I'm big on building into build out. So grow your following to take them off social media. So because we don't own social media because of situations like this, right? And it is so I don't really care for it, but I don't think I really go for it either. It's just like US, are you that much of a control freak? Like what are we talking about? Like we don't have to own all of social media. We don't. It's okay.
For the world.
Right. It's like
Can I just throw that in there? Because the way we acting this year has been a little crazy. Holy cow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
I don't know. That's random side note, but very relevant. I just wanted to know your take on the ban because it seems like it may happen. I wonder how long it will take at the Senate now. They said they're gonna do a full investigation. I don't know what that means. But I wonder how long that's going to take. When's that gonna start and how long is it gonna take?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't
point.
follow politics too much. So other quick news. Under Armour is under some backlash recently. So Moose sent me the metaverse post, and Under Armour did a whole commercial with Anthony Joshua, the boxer, and it was all AI generated. I mean, everything from the footage to the voiceover, sound effects, everything was AI generated. And though some loved it, a lot of people were like, this is sad. The actual person could do it, which I saw the whole commercial, and Isaiah will put it up. I don't know if he could have done everything. I think that's a little crazy. Maybe the voiceover, cool. But if my man got a check for the likeness, and we're getting to a point where I don't necessarily have to be in front of the camera or in front of the mic to still have an impact and to still get compensated from it, I don't really see the problem. I was on TikTok, right? And there was there was this post that was talking about the importance of treating your personal brand starting to be more like a media company and making sure that you are not always the front facing person, that if something happens to you, that's pretty much done with your channel. Same things with like business and things like that, right? Where now this is showing with AI that may not necessarily be the case, because I could use AI to create amazing things, I'm thinking about also the people who want to be producers that may not have the funds or anything, but may have the understanding, the prompt engineering of things. And now they could create something amazing. So, I mean, I see both sides. I do. But I'm more on, this is not necessarily to replace anything. I believe at this moment, this is showing different pieces of art. You know, like there is, of course, there's going to be commercials still with people in it, real life voices, real life actors. And that's a look where there's going to be now this AI stuff. There's going to be animations. There's so many different formats. This is just a new format. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because when I saw the commercial, of course, through the post, I don't know why, but the editing felt like I were watching it or the video, the commercial itself felt like as if I was watching it in 3D. It just felt super immersive. Something about the way the editing and the effects they had on the screen, like it made my eyes twitch a little bit. I was like, yo, this is crazy. But then I'm reading through and I'm just seeing the whole thing come together. And I'm saying, dang, like this industry is really about to be flipped upside down. But you pointed out something really important, which is the knowledge gap around prompt engineering. That while everyone is going to see the final product and just jump to the end result and say, wow, look at this. This can happen. But okay, how do you now acquire the skill set to learn how to create whatever inputs that generate that type of final result? I wish they would have talked a little bit more about that in the post, or I'd be curious to see if something's out there that speaks to the process that generated the end result. Because that didn't look like it was just a quick chat GPT. All right, let me just, boom, boom, boom. Like that wasn't anything like that. So it's cool to see a wave into the future. But to your point, I agree on the sense that if everyone is being compensated fairly and equally, then that's the natural progression of capitalism or just the business world in general. Technology advances. Society has to get better. They have to upskill. They have to remain competitive and find ways to be flexible or adaptive or just move as required to protect their living, in a sense. So I don't want to say it's fair game because I can see some people being upset by it, especially for those who, like I have some friends who worked on movie sets for years. And the grind of the production lifestyle is no joke. I know that's the standard 12, 14, sometimes 16-hour days to set up and wrap and shoot. Like it's a serious game. So I know there's a mad respect for that lifestyle, but I'm just saying, if you can still be a part of the industry and not have to put in that much work, wouldn't it also be beneficial? So it's like, it's just a different way to look at it too.
That's true. And going a little bit to your point, I think when we're looking at high level skills to acquire, right? Prompt engineering has to be one of those things we start learning to really be ahead of things. They used to always say like marketing, copywriting, and all design. Like these are some of the high level skills that you should stack in order to be successful. Prompt engineering is definitely going to be one of those things as well. Not creating, let's say, the next chat GPT, but really knowing how to speak to these AI languages to continuously stay relevant regardless of what the language model going to be. So, But let's talk about delegating, because I saw this clip. Shout out to Gary V. I saw this clip that kind of stir up some thought processes of delegating, as for those who are starting a brand or in the mid of their brand and their business, and they're like, okay, I got to give things away. I can't do things on my own the whole time, blah, blah, blah. what do I give away? What should I give away these particular tasks? What should I keep for myself? Do I keep anything for myself? I saw this clip that sparked just some thought of maybe I shouldn't give every single thing away. And I definitely, for me, want to speak on my experience with that, because I gave too much away and now I'm taking some of the things back. So here we go.
Delegation thing that I'm trying to like learn, because there's things that I can't just delegate, which I try. Like I try delegating editing, but editing is like, it's
the same. It's the same
thing,
way I
you know?
think about it. Like, I don't delegate selling.
Yeah.
You know, like there's things, no matter who you are,
Yeah.
you could be the president of the United States, like there's going to be that you do, and you need to focus on that being the thing you love the most and the thing that makes the biggest impact. Because then that's sustainable. And then after that, you just got to surround yourself with real people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the game.
Yeah.
Too many people get into a place where they think it's all delegation. They always lose. And then too many people don't delegate, then they always lose.
Yeah.
To me, it's the game of picking the thing that you have the biggest impact on the thing you're trying to do. If you can really get into a place where that thing also is the thing you love the most of what you do, then that's who I think makes it.
Yeah.
Shout out to AMD Visuals. That's the guy who was talking. He works a lot with Lil Yachty. You've seen him probably do some Drake stuff too because of the work with Yachty. But Moose, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, delegation is one of those things, man, that's so interesting because, as you stated earlier, there are a lot of different perspectives. You know, as even when you mentioned the topic, I started to do some research on my own, and some people were saying, hey, the thing you do really, really well, that's what you have to delegate. Like, okay, I can see why maybe you say that, but also not. And then in this video, it's the polar opposite, right? With them saying the thing that you do really, really well, you probably shouldn't delegate. Now, I like to sit somewhere in the middle, just as it relates to the topic. I think if you can get to a point where you can take someone along the ride with you for some time, because the cost of training is significantly reduced. So if I can get you ready before all of the responsibility has to fall on your shoulders, we're in a great place, because now should something happen suddenly, no, like that position is not left completely open or unaccounted for. There's someone there who can, even if it's just 80%, 70%, heck, 60% in an emergency situation, to have someone who can step up and cover 60 or 70% of the responsibility is much better than to say, oh, shoot, I never trained anyone. So I like that frame of mind of saying, all right, yes, we know delegation is super important. People sometimes confuse the idea, or they don't see the connection too much between delegating and duplicating. And there's a much closer connection there, at least as it relates to the thing that you're really, really good at. And so there's, of course, the art of finding someone, picking them, or attracting them, or getting them to see what you see in them, or collectively combine your visions enough to see that there's room for both of you, or however many there is of you, to go at this thing that you're pursuing collectively. There's a lot that goes into that part that I think often falls off the conversation or falls off the table when people are talking about delegating or duplicating or scale or team. But that's a big part of it too. I realize that's a major component. And so once that's happening, and you can take them along the ride with you, and you're showing them the ropes, you're seeing and getting some more insight into their skill set, where they're at, how quickly they progress, how do they take constructive criticism, how do they share or handle responsibility. There's a lot that you can gauge from that. And then, of course, once the moment presents itself, it's like, okay, cool. Like now there is that almost shared responsibility, I think, that a lot of people are looking for when it comes to delegation. So yeah, that's kind of my spin to it, just in finding some form of middle ground and saying, okay, delegating is important, but what about duplicating as well?
Yeah, I like I like your spin because it's something I did with Isaiah. Shout out to Isaiah. In the beginning, when it came with E's videos, and just how we did things, like I was the main one that would edit all the videos and that whole nine, and he showed some type of interest. Now, at the time, I had what I thought was passion for the editing, but I had passion for the content and producing it in a certain kind of way. Not necessarily me doing it in that kind of way, but being directing of this is the idea, this is the bar that I want, and this is what I know that goes. And so I did exactly what you said, like have them ride along, and you realize that they have a different perspective of how they do things. And at first, it was like, this is not how I would do it. This is not how it would be. And would get also feedback on some, nah, that's not really it. Like, that's not a you thing. Like, I know when you do it and I know when somebody else does it. Right. But at the same time, just still sticking with it and giving more feedback of like, nah, that now granted, I had to work on the feedback. Right. Because in the one of the clips that we're going to play, which is the process of delegating, I just went to like, you should know, right? Because we go, and I'm realizing it's like a generation situation. Shout out to Shadi and the whole EYL fam, because they covered this where like there's people who will guide you. Like this generation is, I will give you all the game. I will show you exactly what to do. Here's all the value. And then there's people from past generations that are like, go figure it out. No one told me. So I came in the game with people not telling me nothing. Figure it out, right? And I started off in that kind of leadership thing of like, go figure it out. But then I realized that just made life a lot harder. And so the more feedback and the more value that I gave, the output was better. And so also with doing that, I realized that, that's not really my thing. My thing is the strategy. My thing is looking at the bigger picture of it and seeing what all these other platforms are going to use with this particular thing. What is the 3 seconds looking like? What is the ending of the video looking like? What is the purpose of it? Is it going to convert? Is it going to bring brand awareness? Is it going to just engage with the audience? What are the different purposes? And I'm realizing that with delegation, you find out what you truly want to do. And sometimes it's not what you started to do. And realizing that it made me grow as a person to really stay in the lane that I need to be in and not necessarily look at the whole thing of, oh, snap, I gotta do this and do this and do this and do this as part of the role, when really the goal is how are we bringing awareness to the brand? How are we converting? How are we engaging with them? And how are we converting them down the line for revenue? That's not an editor's job. The editor's job is create the content, right? So I'm understanding that ride along situation. So I'm glad that you brought that up. But then I also understood the part where it's like where Gary Vee talked about giving up too much, right? Because even with Deeper Than the Brand, I allowed a lot to happen and a lot of things fell because I thought other people were supposed to take care of it. When really, sometimes you got to realize that there is, how do I put this? You just do things really, really good. And you really enjoy it. And sometimes you allow people to talk you out of it. Of like, nah, you're above that. No, I'm not. I really like doing this. Let me continue to do this because it's bringing impact, right? Nah, you need to like, and I heard too much, and this is, I think, where you have to be very focused and pick wisely who you listen to when it comes to delegating. Because hear it like how you said, where give away what you love and then no, don't give away what you love. Like now granted, you're going to go through it, you're going to figure it out on your own, right? We're here just more of a guidance and here's what we've been through. But sometimes listening to too much hurts more than helps. And for me, it hurt more than help because we also got to look at the levels of who we're hearing it from. Because somebody who's all the way up here saying delegate everything, well, their desire of doing things may be extremely different than you. They may want to be completely removed where you may not want to be completely removed. Now, I'm not saying do everything. We've covered before, do things just to have an understanding. And so you know what is needed. And so I'm a big advocate on that. But I'm big on like the things that really make you happy and the things that create impact. Just like how Gary Vee said, keep that. Because it makes you happy. Because you actually enjoy doing it. You're actually going to show up with energy towards it, right? Not delegating and having worry if it's actually going to be done in the way that you know it should be done. And regardless of how you practice your communication and your feedback, it's still never going to be that way because you gave up something that literally is part of your heart. So I went both ways with it, but I know in this year I've taken back a few responsibilities and it feels good. It doesn't feel overwhelming, and that's where you have to kind of gauge it. Like, don't take everything. Like, okay, I've joked multiple times, like I'm going to be a solopreneur. But there's still parts of that. And me saying that was just more of, I need to take back some of the responsibilities that I really feel like I love doing. And I've done that in both parts of like, yo, I'm really, my main thing is give me piece of content and I know what to do with it. Give me like a campaign or whatever. I know what to do with it, know how to automate it, know how to do these things. The editing part, not my thing. But do I know how to do it? Absolutely. I do it very well. But even with Deeper Than the Brand, my thing is the people. Even when we break down the strategy side, my thing is how do we talk to the people? Make that work. Identify what makes you happy and stay there. Layla Hamosi gave a way better explanation of the process, which both of us was like, this is really good. Because I know I've made the mistake of going to the last step that she's going to talk about plenty of times. So let's go over that real quick.
Most people don't get as much work done as they'd like to because they don't know how to delegate. The first stage is investigation, which is really where you say, I would like you to go research X on my behalf and then bring the information to me. The second stage is informed progress. This is where you delegate a task and then you ask that person to continue to come in and check in with you as they're making progress and once they've achieved the end result. The third is informed results. That person doesn't check in with you. They just continue to do the task and then show you when they have made the result. And then the fourth is ownership. And this takes the longest to get to because ownership is essentially where you ask somebody to do something and then you never ask about it again, right? This is what everyone typically jumps to, but in reality, you need to stair-step your way there with each step because ownership means that that person's not just owning the task, but they're owning the outcome of that without any oversight from you at all.
I don't even think we need it. This probably is one of those clips that you could just skip to the next like clip and just be like, yeah, what she said. Like that is so good. Honestly, I've never heard a better breakdown about the concept of delegation and the process because it's true. It's so crazy when you think about a lot of these things that quote and as cheesy as it sounds, y'all forgive me, the whole idea of you don't see yourself when you're in the frame or in the picture, whatever that saying is. But it's so true. It's like when you're in it, you're not thinking about, is there a better way or what is the best way? Maybe that's the way to phrase the question. What is the best way to go about this? What is the natural phases that come along with something like this? So that breakdown is so awesome. You know, what comes to my mind is that I think, especially in an entrepreneurship's journey or an entrepreneur's journey, when you first start something, you do find a peace or you get so attached to the feeling of accomplishment and achievement, whether that's you're checking things off your list or whatever the case may be. So there's that, I don't know I forget the name of the positive hormone that you get when you're doing stuff, right? It's like you're doing it and you're getting a high. So it's like you feel
Dopamine?
so productive. Yeah, exactly. So you're like getting that dopamine hit. And so I think you get attached to that high. Mm-hmm. But then naturally what happens when you get so much of those hits, they fade off, right? You're not as excited about the level or the hormones that you receive from doing that very same thing. I've talked about it many times where I say, hey, I'm intentional about preserving the new car smell as it relates to what I do, because I know naturally when we look at how we respond to when we get a new car, we're always so excited about how we move and treat the car and what we do in the car and what we can't do in the car. But as time goes on, you're eating in the car, you're bringing your sweaty butt in the gym or in the car after the gym, like you're doing the things that you would never do. And it happens a lot with the work that we do, regardless of what level we're at. We could be like, man, I can't wait. This is my dream. And you get to that dream, role, job, career, business, whatever it is. And over time, if not careful, we don't have the same level of intensity or even intentionality that we brought to it at once. Mm-hmm. And so I think that transfers into delegation because when you find someone who's willing and able, you're just like, yo, take it. And you just dump everything on them, not realizing that you're skipping probably 3 phases, as she's mentioned, that you should have brought someone upward to land them at that ownership stage. So I think sometimes it's a little bit almost like a subconscious or unconscious thing that entrepreneurs do, or leaders, creators, really anyone who's had to do something on their own. It's because you enjoy doing it for so long, so you probably held on to it for a little too long, right? And that's why when we talked about that ride along, and I love that phrase, it's like, it's a good way to bring someone through those first stages naturally, organically, before you need them. Instead of hanging on to it for too long, you get fatigued or tired or busier with other things. Like you said, you know, the natural progression of your career or your brand and business journey, each thing unlocks something new for you. We even started the episode talking about that. It's like, yo, content and branding is what unlocked AI, and AI is what's booming your career right now. Awesome, right? And so as that happens on the delegation side, you don't get the same response from it, so you want to dump it. And I think that's what opens up for the mistake. That's really what I'm, kind of connected it to here.
That clip right there, like, opened my eyes to a few points. One, a different look into micromanaging, right? Because like she said, we go straight to ownership, right? Like I'm not a micromanager. So if you say, I'm going to do this, I'm thinking you're going to own this. I don't got to really talk to you about it. This is your thing. This is what you want to do. Where really, if you're a part of something, you do have to put them through these little tests, right? Where it's the research, where it's the check-ins, where it's the not necessarily the check-ins, but just get the result and then the full ownership. There's these different parts, and it makes it not so micromanaging when you put it in that kind of context, where it's just like, oh, these are just tests to see if they are ready for the ownership. Some people, you are expecting ownership and they have no position, no right to be in an ownership position. But
Oh, snap.
I'm just stating, but
yeah, that give them that hold up. Yeah, I don't have the soundboard, but you got to give them that hold
first
up.
of all, you're not gonna speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
like, but it's real. Like I do believe after watching this, everybody should go through these tests, and some people may find that very petty. That's, if someone's going for the job, the position, the creating a certain thing, they should take some type of ownership, and should, cool. But you don't know if they're right for that position, period, until you put them through this process, right? Until you can see, all right, can they do the research? Do they have some type of understanding in this field, in this particular position? Can they take direction? Because you are the one that's delegating. You are the one that's the visionary of this particular project, position, whatever you want to do, right? And in each process, they're showing, I can own this. And we sometimes just assume they take ownership and that they need to have ownership in that position. And that's not necessarily the case. And then we have this high expectation when they should have never had that position in the first place. And so we actually set ourselves up for disappointment because we put somebody in a situation when they had no business to. And you never even checked them, and not check them, but like you never put them through a process to see if they even can take those responsibilities. Even, regardless of how long you've known this person, how qualified they are, whatever it is, you still have to take them through a certain process so you can rest easy and know, they know what they're doing. I made that mistake where I didn't do that. The only person that I think I've done that with to an extent is Isaiah. It's like, okay, look this up, cool. Then he started doing things on his own. We would do check-ins, cool. Then he'll just give it to me. To now, I don't necessarily have to check much. I check some things once in a while. We'll do some feedback. But there was a lot of other people that I was like, damn, I thought you were going to take ownership on this. But did I really see that you needed to be in that position? No. I just assumed if you showed interest and you did something, then yeah, it's yours. Here you go. But that clip, I need y'all to rewind that and write the notes and have that sticky
Seriously.
somewhere when you are having a team or thinking about having a team. This is the stuff that I need to go through to make sure that they are right for this particular project, task, decision that I'm about to give them.
It's crazy, and I was just say this real quick because I know we got one more. I was about to send you this one. So Alex Hormozy, Layla's husband, he put out a clip where he said about delegating. He's like, it's not that you don't know how to delegate or you delegate too much, is that you tolerate average people for too long. All right, it's like basically saying like your team sucks.
Wait, first of all, you're not gonna speed past that like you didn't just say what you just said.
I was like, dang, that stings. Like I literally was like, nah, I'm not gonna send that. I don't think we should have the full. But I was like, man, could it be that it's not even over delegating, under delegating, not knowing the phases of delegation, but we just tolerate, going back to that same example of the entrepreneur's journey in just wanting help, how difficult it can be to find help, or having to take time away from doing the work to recruit the help, hire the help, look for the help, whatever it is. There's so much that goes into that process, with limited resources that you're just like, anybody. Oh, you, okay, cool. Come on in. And you're like, and we never really think about, yes, some help is better than no help, but is keeping average help on the team or in your vicinity for too long helping you from getting the great help or the great support or finding that rock star team member that can do the equivalent of 5 average, people on the squad. So he said that and I was like, dang, I know that's going to sting. That might hurt some feelings, but it is a nice wake up call to some leaders to say, hey, maybe you made that mistake too. Like you want to consider, and it's not about being mean, but you just have to evaluate the talent, I guess.
That's very true. And we got one more clip that kind of goes to the next process of, okay, now here's the how, but there's a difference between delegating task and decisions.
Man, delegation is like everything. It's something I still try to delegate more and more of my work where I am the bottleneck. A lot of times, like I was a control freak, I want to do everything, but the more you delegate, the more successful you can be. And it's not delegating just like the tasks, like this person checks the mail, this person puts in the KPIs, but it's like delegating decision making, having your team actually make decisions. And so you have to empower your team to be able to make these decisions. And so the more you can delegate, the more successful you can be. A great book for that is Who, Not How. And that really tells you like putting the people in place. Like for every goal, you got to find out the who is going to help you get that goal.
No faster way to lose the interest of a high performer than to not do what was just recommended here in terms of the empowerment, the respect, the listening ear of the ability to make decisions, right? Because it's to say, hey, I brought you on the team because you're a phenomenal XYZ. You've worked your way up to the 4 phases or whatever it is. Now, this is the final piece of it. I mean, this is the difference between an employee and an owner almost. And while I may be giving you the resources, the access, everything at hand, I don't quite trust you to pull the trigger just yet. Mm-hmm. So when you think about the quality of a high performer, in a lot of ways, they can do a lot of what they're doing with you or as part of the team on their own. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just the truth. And so when you like nibble this carrot in front of their ear or in front of their face, and just when they're like, yes, I want it. This is what I want. This is my intuition. This is my instinct. This is the research. This is the work that I put in. This is my skill set. And then just when they're about to grab you, like, take it away. It's no longer on the table. It's like, so what did I do all this work for? And that's one of the things that me personally, I have always been very mindful is to not allow myself to get to a point where I have to start counting the cost. Counting the cost in terms of, man, I have to do this. And if I do this, is it going to be worth it? Because now I'm working off of the result rather than just immersing myself into being who I am. I'm not worrying about, well, what if it's not appreciated? Well, if it's not respected, or what if this? And it's like, no, I don't want to think about that. I just want to go. And so I think that's definitely one of the ways that you lose a lot of great people when you don't allow them to say, hey, I trust you. I trust your ability. I trust your instincts. Go for it. Like, take the shot. I actually, isn't maybe trust is not the good word, but I believe in you. You know, it's like, I think sometimes maybe that's the difference between a high performer and a quote unquote founder and an owner, is that the high performer doesn't have the full belief yet, you know, going back to what you said earlier too, around like, yo, maybe I don't see my full dopeness. Where the owner's like, oh yeah, I'm super dope. Like it's undisputed. I am the undisputed dope person, whatever. And it's like that high performer is probably searching for it. So I think that validation and the belief to say, no, go ahead and pull the trigger and let's work with the outcomes, because there's training and so many lessons that come from making a decision and seeing how a person responds when their decisions go right, when their decisions go wrong and they fail, right? Because there's different things that come from that as well. So I think there's so much that comes from it. So I think that's another, just a key word to add to it. We said duplicating, delegating, and then even the decisions, and how a lot of these things, you know, give you like your own unique formula for how to delegate, you know, different phases or whatnot. So yeah, really, really cool aspect of it as well.
You triggered the high performer conversation. So
after alert.
Well, I'll say this. I will semi-agree with you, right? There was a lot of things you said that were right as far as like the high performer, if you don't allow them to pull the trigger, they just kind of like die down, right? And then with the one thing that I'll say about what I don't agree per se is the high performer is like there, but then the owner understands their dopeness, right? Where a high performer probably understands their dopeness, but really at a certain point, understanding the environment stays pretty much where they're needed at a certain point, and will try to ruffle feathers, but if it doesn't necessarily go the way they need it to, they understand how dope they are outside of that situation. So when you do have a high performer, it's so important to, like what he said, to allow them to have decision making, because that's what makes them dope. That's what they'll prove it time and time again. Now, there's some things that they're going to get wrong. There's some things that is going to need some assistance, but what you can expect when you do give that power of decision is that they going to see it through. Like, this is what it is. I'm going to stand on it. We going to go and we'll pivot if it doesn't work. We'll go this route, this, that, and the third. So when you are at that point of, okay, it's not just about task, it's about decisions. I got to give them that. I got to give them that power, which then can lead into ownership. You got to watch them, because what I mean by watching them, because you got to see if they will see it through or not, or if it was more of a, oh, you talked a big game, right? But you still need to, your hand still needs to be held. And that's a different kind, that I have to move a different kind of way if I have to hold your hand through the whole time. Not saying you can't perform, you're still performing, but I got to hold your hand. So this is a situation with that. But with what he said, I think that's really important on top of pretty much all three of these clips. You can see, what do you keep? How do you delegate? And then how do you get to that process of ownership? There's another process between delegating tasks and delegating decisions. So overall, you have pretty much given the blueprint of how to delegate to pretty much scale yourself, your brand, and your business.
Yellow.
Yeah, this is blueprint talk. But people, go flightassessment.com. Extreme Execution. You see him wearing the shirt. Okay. Shout out to Grind Gear, which I'm wearing because Grind Gear be dropping some really dope stuff that you don't know about, which you will know about soon. Okay. But what you got with Extreme Execution, challenges, amazing things? What you got?
Yeah, I mean, same vibe. We got an upcoming boot camp that we're looking at for the end of April, and yeah, a pretty dope event that's also coming up as a result of the challenge or those who are rocking with E and the 365 boys. So yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. On the end of April is looking like it's gonna be some nice action-packed heat all back to back in a sense. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, so if you were in that challenge and you got that 365 package in full, you're going to be invited to somewhere dope. I can't say too much because you're not supposed to know unless you bought it. Okay? You're not supposed to say. And then, of course, Deeper Than the Brand, deeperthanthebrand.com. We got a really dope new tier, Content Corner tier for everybody who's trying to figure out how to grow a following and that whole nine. More information about that later and soon and all that great stuff. But Moose, final words.
Yeah, just a quick reminder that the peace and happiness is not the absence of problems. It's your ability to face problems and still keep your composure. So don't think that you're automatically going to find peace or happiness when everything's perfect. That's not how it works. You're still going to come up against challenges from time to time, but the ability to maintain your composure when problems arise, still thinking about the solution, that's peace. That's happiness.